Hi, I'm Lou Rosalia, and this is Crew Call. Did you ever go outside and sit by a tree to clear your mind, get yourself together? Well, that might have been the exact place and the perfect thing to do. That and personal financial insecurity and security today on Crew Call. And to discuss all this great stuff, I'm going to do it in reverse order. We have Mr. Scott Glass, Glazzy, but Glass the nickname, and I always screw that up. Scott Glazzy. Joe and Frank Scacciaferro, the Scacciaferros,
Yep.
all industry professionals working around the world. Once again, guys, welcome. Good to see you. Everybody good?
Yeah, Lou.
Yeah.
Good to be
Going on.
back.
Yeah, certainly is. Speaking of being back, my head has been spinning with all the crazy stuff that's been going on in the world, with natural disasters and whatever else that's out there. And that actually leads us to my first topic, which is environment and creativity. And I was thinking about this article I read, which talked about really briefly that being around trees, specifically trees, really helped kids develop their creativity. So I thought about the environment and all the places you guys work in the world, indoors, outdoors. I mean, craziness. It's totally random. Whatever the job calls for is what you do. So I was wondering how much of a role and how does it affect your job performance being in environments and the creative part of the job? Are you distracted? Are you more focused? Do you get angry? Joe, I'm going to start with you. How much of a role do you believe physical environment plays?
For me personally,
Yeah.
enormous, 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 enormous.
How
Not
so?
the job, not the job, not when we're in production, but when I'm in the creative, conceptual, that side of it, the space, the environment I'm in is critical to my thought.
Do you have a favorite environment to do certain things, or one fits
I
all?
I have a short list of things that I do, and I'll try them. And if that thing doesn't click, then I go to the next thing. And if I don't get in the vibe then, and then it clicks, and then I go to the next thing. It's interesting you said trees, because amongst my other strange relationships with nature and things, trees are big for me, real big for me. I identify with trees. Oh God, I'm going to sound like an acid head. I identify with trees like they're people. I actually like them more than people. Not as much as I like animals, but trees have a vibe for me. They definitely. I'm going to shut up. So move on.
No, that makes total sense. Frank, I want to talk to you about your job and your specialty, which is specialty camera operated, jib, a lot of gear. Are there times when you find your environment challenging because it's either too small, it doesn't fit the electronics or the physical stuff you need? How does that affect you?
Yeah, I mean, a footprint of building, if you're building a 30-foot jib, you need a lot of room. One, just to build the actual arm, and then to actually operate. And depending on if it's like a place that has like a big crowd,
Right?
if that crowd's not like crowd controlled around you, things can get pretty tight. And if you're operating a jib, let's say, just because that's out in the open, you could be out exposed to people. I mean, if I have a utility or somebody with me, then I have to they have to kind of keep those people back, or it's just me kind of bumping into people politely while I'm doing what I'm doing. So like that part can be pretty challenging. But then as far as like in a physical space, not just necessarily working, but if how it affects your work, I would say like a live environment of like doing a hockey game and you're kind of in the arena, you kind of feed off that energy of a building necessarily. If Joe's saying he feeds off the energy of trees or something in nature, and that kind of way, I could kind of get the same feeling by how a crowd is responding to something that's going on the field or court or ice or anything like that. So
I want to ask you another thing. It actually just came to my memory. I remember once I was watching TV, and we watched you at a basketball in front of the tables at the half court,
oh yeah.
just kneeling there, and I'm like, how in God's name is Frank kneeling there all this time doing camera
Yeah.
work? Weren't you
That was-
pissed? Were you angry, or where are you? And where's your head at that time?
I mean, I don't think I was angry, but it was. I mean, that was my first. That position doesn't exist anymore. That was actually specific for the Knicks, and all that camera did. I think it was camera 8 on the show. That was like one of the first things I did for like before I was doing robos at MSG. Was camera 8, and all that was to keep a shot on the coach for the entire game.
That's
No matter
it.
where the action is, which really means I could be like sitting and stuff's going on behind me, which is I'm sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
Courtside, like closer than anybody would be to the floor, with my back to the action, which is was pretty insane, like kind of scary, like nerve wracking. It's also where the players check in, like they'll come to the desk and just sit next to me, and they're like, I mean, 9 feet tall.
It's
So
hilarious.
yeah, that was pretty nerve wracking. But yeah, that position doesn't exist anymore.
That's hilarious. Thank you for sharing. I'm glad I remembered that. Gloss,
Yeah.
speaking about physical environments, environment isn't always physical. I want to ask you, have you ever been in a situation that you're in a beautiful environment and it's filled with crappy people? It's filled
Yes.
with crappy people that kind of ruin it for you. So you're all pumped up and blah.
Yeah. So I'm going to feed off kind of what Frank said. So Frank mentioned that the environment and the arena, when you feed off that energy, that's kind of how you can pull from that and pull some creativity. So people can very much affect how you work. I've been in studios where it's filled with older, nothing wrong with older gentlemen as yourselves, but it's filled with older guys who have been in the industry for a long time. They complain a lot. They're tired of what they do. They feel like they're overworked. And I'm new in this environment, and I'm here to actually, try to prove what I can do.
Right.
And these people are just bringing you down. You know what I mean? And as opposed to like going into somewhere like I remember when I first walked on set at Good Morning America. To shoot Steadicam, it's a little intimidating, but no one's bullshitting and saying like I hate my job, I hate my life. They're all like welcoming you in. They're like, this is how we do the show. We're excited to do it today. You're gonna do a great job. They're supportive, So you pull from that energy, like Frank said, from the arena energy, and you're like, okay, I want to put my all into this now. So yeah, I've been in a lot of situations with shitty, crappy people who hate their job, and they just embody negativity, and it's not, it's never good for anybody.
So speaking about jobs, I want to go back to the very beginnings when you guys were all thinking about doing this for a living, or maybe coming to that realization. And I want to talk about personal financial insecurity and security in the media and entertainment business. So I read this article by Stephen Vai, who, does anybody know who he is? No? Joe, anything? Joe
I'm
Bueller?
gonna let you go, Lou.
Ah, you guys are the
I'm
best.
gonna pretend I'm not one of the old cranky guys that Gloss just mentioned.
Oh, God. Steve Vai's a musician. Next, we'll continue. So the article had I got it right here, actually. It had his 2 rules of financial security, how to live on your earnings as a musician. And I thought, that's got to be an interesting transition period from when you're doing it kind of as a hobby to saying, I want to be a pro at this. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to go around and talk to each of you guys, and I want to ask you specifically these 3 questions. What was the first dollar you ever made in the biz? When did you know you can reasonably sustain yourself financially? And the third is, do you have any financial panic moments, either back then, throughout history, or today? And COVID is in the mix as well. Joe, you've done this in music. You've run businesses. You're one of the cranky old guys that's been around and been successful. So, what's your first dollar story? Tell me. When
All right, well, first off, I'm not cranky. I am older, but I'm not cranky. I get angry, but I'm not cranky. And I truly, truly still love what I do. So it kind of keeps me fresh. So let's talk about what you just asked me specifically. And it's something, and I just had this conversation with a newbie the other day. He called me up. He's graduating college. And it's the call I get many, 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 many times. I want to get in this business. He happens to have family that are Wall Streeters. So I know right off the bat what he's going to be dealing with, even though he doesn't. I give him the same advice I gave myself years ago. I don't chase money. I don't care about money. I mean, both of them, you'll hear them both say it at some point. It's not, this isn't an industry, it's an industry of passion. And if you do your job and you do your job well and you're patient, money will follow. This business it's a caste system. It's either you're broke ass or you got money. Yeah. And when you got money, it could disappear, the gig after you're done. It's a weird industry, and if you don't love what you do and you don't chase it that way. So my first income,
your first dollar,
and my sainted mom, my first dollar. My mom told me when I was very, very young, and I was in a band, and we played, garages and basements and all that for little graduations. She said, as soon as you earn $1, you're a professional. So my goal was to become a professional. I was a professional in 6th grade. That was the first time we got paid. And since then, it's been nothing but just a wonderful ride. Mounds and mounds of money stacked up. The other room is just filled with bags of money.
That green glow in the background.
That green glow is, yes, it's from the dollars.
Like the Emerald, it's the Emerald City behind it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I used to cut grass when I was younger. I got $1 in professional lawnmower too. So
yeah, landscaper.
You're a landscaper.
Lawnmower.
Frank, how much did you make on your first gig? What was it?
I don't know. Ask the guy who paid me. He said. I honestly, I have no idea. And like, I'm not. I know I'm gonna sound like cocky or arrogant when I say this, but the first time I got paid was, I don't know, maybe 6th grade as well.
Yeah.
Because I was going to Albany like with our crew and going to training camp for and he would, I would work.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was going to just hang out and watch practice and like stand with them and do whatever. Like I was working. There's pictures of me holding a reflector in coaches' interviews or holding the old HMIs with a huge battery pack, but it's ridiculous because I'm a child.
Yeah.
And there's all like other people that are, like Cypher, who if people watch the other shows on here, he was working on those crews and everything. So but I was getting it wasn't a big paycheck, but I was getting paid and I was on the payroll as an actual employee. It wasn't like him slipping me cash in like an envelope at the end. Thanks for the weekend. I was getting an actual paycheck. So it was pretty early on.
Fascinating. So 6th grade, okay.
It's to the same point of what, but if you want a more real answer of like more of myself professional outside of that, really quick, it would probably be when I was 17, 18, and making that move from kind of stopping college actually,
right.
I would say. Moving into like my personal professional career outside of working with the Ferro crew.
Yep.
Was just deciding to like, okay, if I had like a couple jobs here and there, but it was like, if I'm going to try and do this for real, I need to kind of stop going to school and then just get over that next hump that he's talking about. And then you get to, just keep pushing to the next levels of that.
But let's let the audience know that by no chance in hell what you did for the Ferro crew was complete work. It was complete professional work, real deal. You had it worse than anybody because the man next to you, or wherever you are on the screen, was extremely demanding.
Yeah.
So it was even harder. Gloss, I want to go to you. What say you about this? What was your first gig and what'd you do with the check?
Yeah, well, like I said, I've been a professional stock boy. I've been a professional tent builder. I've been a professional lawnmower. But the day I became a professional industry professional is so I actually, Joe cut my first paycheck as well. I came in as an intern for Ferro at the time, and a certain somebody wasn't able to stay. He had to leave, and I was able to move into a position halfway through.
Man,
so
here.
I got that's a story for another time.
Okay.
But so I picked up a camera. Joe said, "Hey, go learn this camera, and you'll shoot for me. You move into a position where I will pay you." So I'm like, "That's amazing. That's what I want to do. You gave me a chance here. I'm gonna go prove myself." But yeah, to answer your question, I've always been pretty frugal. So I think I saved probably half of it, and the other half I probably went out that night with Frank somewhere around Hoboken, and we had a little celebration, So So yeah, the moment I became an industry professional, I was proud of it. It was Joe who set me up with my career, and yeah, I look back and I'm always thankful for that. So
That's fantastic.
So, yeah.
Joe, you've yeah, like we said earlier, you've done this a couple of times in different businesses. So starting one business, moving to another, different industries, different sectors. When did you realize that you're financially stable? You can start doing things. You can, you're not worried about the next check. Although you said earlier you're not worried about the money, but there is the reality of you got to live somewhere, pay bills, and get to your job. So, kind of, how does that happen? What does that look like?
Boy, I'm answering all the questions that I get asked, and I'm going to use the same answer, the stock answers. First off, those guys and a lot of their generation is smarter than we were, because they learned early on that being financially solvent is important. We didn't. It might have been because I grew up through the music industry, which is a lot nuttier, and nobody's really paying much attention to tomorrow. Everybody's getting through today.
Right.
But they're both really smart as far as they have financial advisors. They put money aside, as Gloss said. He puts half away and does. That's brilliant. I didn't do any of those things. I didn't even think about it. Your question was, when did I feel financially what?
Stable. Like, when did you say, wow, I got some money in the bank, I don't know how that happened, and I can actually do this and make a living and continue and grow this thing that I do?
I can't answer that question with any kind of and I know you come from that financial world also, so you have a very good point of view. I don't. I never thought about it. It wasn't something. I grew up with a family that was in that world, so I never felt unstable, but I never felt the need to be stable. I always knew, no matter what, I can go frame houses. I can make a living. I'm never going to be at a loss for putting dollars in my pocket.
Yeah.
But it was more about, I want to do this. I see something that's cool or challenging, or wow, I never did that. I never knew about, and I would just chase it. That's how I started the businesses. That's how, even FerroCity, it's the same thing. I mean, I dumped money and didn't look back. So there's those other schools of thought, and I don't see them as wrong, but you definitely have to have a mindset and a partner that's willing to take the ride with you, because that's critically important.
That is so true. And what you answered was a very good answer. Sometimes there isn't a number or a metric. And speaking of the metric, Frank, I want to go to you. Career-wise, did you ever define it like, my success is going to be based on the day I make $100,000? Well, that was a big number when we were kids, but now it's like 2, 3, 4, 500,000. If you're not making that, who knows?
No.
No?
Was that the end of the question?
Yeah, that was the end of the question. I mean, how did you define I made it? How did you define I can do this? This is real?
I don't know. Have I made it? I have no idea. I don't know. Like, I don't even know if that's. I never had, like, there's goals of things to do, but it's always then there's like the next goal after that, and there's after. I mean, that's a big reason why that tattoo exists on my arm, where it's a never-ending staircase, and it's, you know what I mean. And that's kind of like that. I don't know. There's ultimate goals, but then you get to that, and then there's another one, and then there should always keep being the other thing that's going to push you forward to keep, getting to the next step, so to speak. So no, I don't. There's never a number. That's never. I mean, I grew up obviously with him as my dad, so I kind of embodied a lot of that same thought, where
Right.
it really wasn't money that pushed me to that. And like the same thing he said, like, I know I can always figure out how to make money, so that's why I'm smart with it, but I'm not stingy with it. Also, it's like, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it. If I want to buy something, I'm going to buy it. I'm not
Right.
worried about that. So that also plays the other way, where there's not like a number that I'm worried about getting to, or if I get under that in my bank account,
Right.
the same thing.
Right.
So no, I guess is the answer.
Which is so interesting, because Joe mentioned the Wall Street crew. Everybody there is so tied to the number. Like, well, hey, what'd you gross this year? Oh, we did $5 million. That's all that matters. Not how many people did you help. Not nothing. It's just what'd you gross, and gross
Yeah.
is how much you actually.
Ours is
dating
probably how many days did you get this month?
Yeah, days of
Because,
work.
and I'm dead serious because there's this one dude, one handheld guy. I'll never forget what he said to me when I was. I mean, we were kind of close in age, but he's like one of the best handheld like sports guys. His name's Kyle Hagan. But he used to live in Hoboken and do MSG stuff. So like we would take the train back after games a lot. We were talking one night, and he was just like, yeah, he's like, somebody said to me early on, he's like, as long as you get 20 days a month, you're good. Like you're pretty much good financially if you're not going out gambling it away or like that kind of stuff. So I mean, it wasn't, it's not like my goal is to always get 20 days a month because there's different gigs and like that. But that same thing where it's like, okay, if I have enough of that, then I'm good.
So that's kind of a measure. That's really interesting. I didn't expect those answers. Those are cool. Glaz, you've worked both sides of the equation, be it corporate jobs and you've got your own stuff going, urban visuals and other things, and then you do independent work. Did you measure, or do you measure yourself or hold yourself to, I need to go here first and I need to do this and then I'm going to get a corporate job and that's the end of that? Not that I'm saying,
Yeah, not exactly. So the way I said, I think everyone needs, and it's important to have goals. However you measure success, whatever success is to you, whether that's monetary, whether that is where you want to end up, if you want to get to a certain show or something like that, you have to set goals for yourself. And once you reach a goal, you have to set another goal. You can't just stop once you hit your goal, or else you're going to flatline, and that's going to be where you get stuck. People get stuck all the time. But yeah, so I've freelanced and I've had the corporate job where I get paid, and I think the big difference is when you're freelancing and you have money coming in, and when you do have a moment of, wow, I made all this money, how to get in my account, like you kind of said, Lou, you can't just, if you're young and you're making good money in the industry freelancing, you can't just see that number in your bank account and be like, that's the money I have, I can spend it all if I want to. You have to learn to set goals, saving goals, especially with taxes at the end of the year, because we're freelancers and they don't take taxes out. So that's an important thing to remember. You got to save, like I like to save 30% every check at least, just to be safe. And then if, the end of the year comes, then I have some extra cash to play with. But yeah, it's been nice to have a corporate, like we've talked about before. I work at CNN, so I have an income, 401k, all the financial tools that I need to have, I have in place. But it's two completely different worlds. It's just two completely different worlds, and the way you get paid is probably the biggest difference. But yeah, like I said, so success to me is being able to be financially free to like what Frank said, to go where I want, do what I want, buy what I want, and then if I want to save for something, I'll set those goals and I'll save for it. So yeah.
When I wrote the next question, thank you, Glazzy. That was an interesting answer.
You're welcome.
When I wrote the next question, prior to jumping on air with you guys about financial panic moments, and I just heard all the stuff you guys said, I don't even think I'm going to get the answers I was looking for. Because you just don't care. You just want to do the work, and the money comes. 20 days a month. I don't care. I'll figure out how to do this, and I mow lawns. That's my crew. But if there was a time that you could think of that you actually thought about the money, or you were in a situation that if I had this or I didn't have that, was there anything that ever happened? Joe?
2020.
Yeah.
2020 was the first time in my career where I went, shit.
No kidding.
I can't just jump. And I had invested a lot of money into FerroCity prior to, from 18, 19, and figuring I just keep making money. I'll just fill the bucket and like I had for the last 20 something years. And then all of a sudden there wasn't anything, and I couldn't go frame houses. There wasn't anything. So yeah, there was a big panic that set in, and it was a new panic because I never felt it. I'm glad now on the other side of it. It actually was a phenomenal learning experience, learning about myself. It was a deep faith moment for me. And, we got through it. Everything worked out fine. But I want to punctuate one thing, and these guys know it, and you know him, but I'm not going to drop his name. So I have a friend in the business, incredible. He works on the music side, incredible audio guy, blah, 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 blah. He's inherited some, really decent money. And he's been working this last month. There's been concert after concert after concert after concert all over the country. And there's Golden Time, which is our overtime. And he was doing like 16-hour days, 8 of which were straight, 8 of which were golden. So he was making about $2,000 a day.
Right, right.
And he has this big nest egg of money, and all he does is complain about money. He's at the pinnacle of his career. It's something, and I've known him. He was an intern with me in Triple S, and this is what he's always wanted to aspire to. He's there, and he has all the money, but he's one of those just cranky guys who just is going to complain about money. And people out there who are listening go, wait a minute, this guy made $2,000 a day? I want that gig.
Yeah.
I mean, he broke his ass to get to where he is.
Yeah.
But, anyway, I just wanted to throw that in.
Good.
How many people
long.
could actually work 16 hours a day, though? It would
Not for a straight month. That's what I was going to
Yeah.
say. I was like, everybody wants that gig because you hear $2,000 a day, and then you get into like day 7 of 16 hours a day, and you're sleeping for 5, if that, if you're lucky. And then it's like, what are those days? Is it 95 degrees outside? Is it pouring rain? Is it you're out in the elements? You're doing all that, and then it's like by day 5, most people will be like, "Yeah, I don't care about this. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
I want to go sit inside."
And it breaks down to 12.20.
Yeah.
It breaks down to 12.25 an hour.
Yep.
Thanks for punctuating that, Frank, because that is absolutely that is the other side of that.
Just worked for 2 months straight. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love doing it, and I yes, I made a good amount of money, but it was like, I mean, it's like you said, I'm outside for those 2 months and working in crazy conditions, 2 hurricanes, 98 degrees plus humidity and that kind of stuff. So it's
Yep.
it's not like you're just like sitting back, rolling in $2,000, sitting in an air conditioned studio for 16 hours. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
Frank and I worked, I think, 24 hours straight one day. Do you remember the DNC, Frank, when we had to come back and we had to go straight to Giants training camp, not an hour of sleep, had a couple of Red Bulls on the ride back from Philly, and that was it, right into the next day. So so it's a lot.
Well, I was going to say, Lou, real quick, and I know we're way off subject here, but all of us, what Frank just went through. But I remember, Glaz, your first New Year's Eve, you were so pumped and excited to go work New Year's Eve. It's like, yeah, this is going to be great on stages. I'll let you finish that.
It poured so hard for like the entire time. All of Times Square soaked. I had a Steadicam. So I had everything covered. My monitor broke my first live shot on air. I as soon as the director took my camera, my monitor went out. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, great shot, keep going. I'm like, oh, okay. So I couldn't see anything, but yeah, like Joe said, I was so excited. I'm so pumped. I finally got Times Square, New Year's Eve on Steadicam, and then just downpoured, and it was miserable the whole time.
That's when you just stay wide and hope for the best.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Yeah, it's like, all right.
And keep in mind, New Year's Eve is in January in the Northeast.
Freezing.
Yeah, it's cold rain.
Yeah.
My
and you
God,
guys
man.
just so the audience knows, you guys are talking about the New Year's Eve in Times Square with the ball.
Anderson Cooper, New Year's Eve, like on walking down aisles of crazy, screaming drunk people, like standing there for hours and hours, and just pissed on us all day long. It was like a giant FU to my first big job.
There's always more to the story.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
Frank,
Lou, sorry.
That's all right. Frank, anything come to mind for you?
I mean, it would go to 2020 as well, but I don't think mine was a financial panic. Because, I had enough money, and I knew eventually something was going to happen. And, that was the first time also going on unemployment, which was just felt weird in general, taking money that I'm not working for, which was strange. But it was a more not working panic. After a week, being home for a couple days, and I lived with Scott, and we were having a good time doing stuff here, and then it was just all right, I can't stay in here anymore. I need to go do something. And then after 3 months, and then we all jumped, and other people in the industry, that opportunity came up with that Broadway show, but doing it out on pickup trucks.
Yeah.
And doing that, and they were just like, how can we cover this and whatever, and we just, all of us jumped, the 3 of us in here, jumped at the opportunity. We're like, yeah, we'll do it for free. I don't care. We'll just go. And then Chuck Goslin, who owns a few jibs, basically just donated them, and he goes, yeah, I want to do it also. I'll bring one, and I'll let you build the other one. Then Glaz had his Steadicam, and then we had another shooter, and it was everybody was just there because they just wanted to do something.
Yeah. Get back in.
So that, for me, it was more of a panic of not working, and then just I'll it was like a drug that you need to you know what I mean, that you need to just have to keep going.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a financial thing. It was just need to do
Yeah.
something.
And
Again,
Lou, what Frank's talking about, that gig,
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't. I want everybody to understand. This is industry wide. Those, if you're in this business long enough, you're in it for the reasons we've all been talking about. The guys who were there was like the sound company from Hamilton. It was the guys from. I mean, these were high-end pros, all working for free to do this gig in bum f middle of the woods driving. It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
It was a funny place. It was great, but there was no reason for us to be doing this. But
And
it was like,
literally-
as Frank said, it was like, yeah, I'll work.
And it was literally a drive-in theater,
Yeah.
upstate
Yeah.
New York. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So again, there's always more to the story. Glass, what about you, buddy?
In terms of what?
Yeah, any financial panic
Sorry.
moment, any time you were like, oh,
Gotcha.
I'm in trouble here.
I mean, I'm not going to say that 2020 was really bad. I mean, yeah, I lost a lot of my Steadicam work, but I was still employed, full time. So I was still seeing a check come in. So there was a little bit of what am I going to do about this extra? I was losing a certain percentage of my income at that point, but yeah, I've never really had a serious moment where I'm like, oh no, like maybe I have to change careers or maybe, okay, I'll go here. Early on in my career, when I was new to this, when I was taking a lot of advice from Joe, a lot of the guys that I looked up to, that was kind of teaching me, and I didn't really know if I could be independent while freelancing just yet because I wasn't sure where the money would come from all the time. There's that insecurity not knowing where your next check is coming from sometimes. If you could work 4 days in a row, like Frank said earlier, and then, not hear from anybody for a few days, and then it's like, oh, okay, where's my next check coming from? So yeah, early on in my career, it was a little bit of not panic, but just unsure. I wasn't really sure if it was going to work out for me. But then, yeah, I figured it out, and here I am today on the show with you fine gentlemen, you old cranky guys, and we're talking about how we all made it. So, so yeah, we all figured it out.
Oh, it's too much. So I want to share with you Steve Vai's 2 rules, what he actually said in the article. And the first rule to make it and live off of your media and entertainment earnings are, number 1, shed your anxiety about it. And the second one was live under your means, which you guys pretty much spoke to this whole entire interview. So something's happening and something's right. Well, guys, thank you so very, very much. I appreciate it. Great time, great talk, great information. And I shall see each and every one of you real soon.
Cool. Thanks, Lou.
Hey, Lou, thanks a lot. Great
Take
times.
care, guys.
Bye, guys.
All right, bye.